I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Yes, welcome. And for those of you who are coming back, welcome back. My name is Rob. I'm going to be your host for this season 1, episode 4 of Homecoming, the AfterBuzz TV after show.
Season 2.
Oh, oops. Sorry, season 2.
Close enough. It's been a long day.
Exactly. And I'm not alone. Thank goodness I'm not alone, because Kelsey Meyer hopped in and said,
Hey.
How you doing, Kelsey?
So well. How are you?
I'm well, and I'm ready to get into this episode. But before we do, I just want to let everybody know, if you haven't watched it, please turn this off. They give you to the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, spoilers are coming. So before we get into this, let's just talk about, let's just go over some topics that I circled that I felt that we should discuss. And I'm pretty sure that Kelsey, you would agree with me here. So we have the Department of Defense interview, very important moment.
Mm-hmm.
We have, this is a 2-part, I love doing the 2-part points.
I love it.
So Walter's VA problem / Leonard's new partner. An unexpected partner. We'll get into that soon too. And my last point, it was all a part of the plan, which this is the biggest bombshell of the night.
I know.
This episode,
I know.
It was all.
I literally was like, God, we were comically wrong. That is what I wrote.
We were definitely wrong. So, Kelsey, give me your overall thoughts on this whole episode.
Whew, it was a lot. It was a lot like we briefly discussed prior to jumping on here, it was a lot to unpack. A lot went down during this episode, and I love the lengths of these episodes because it just leaves you wanting more and more and more and more. It's like short enough to where you're not feeling exhausted by the end, but long enough to where they give you enough throughout the episode where you're like, okay, now on to the next one. So I liked it. It was a good episode.
Yes, I had a lot of fun with this episode. You know me, I love seeing like stuff just pop up and pile up until it reaches the head, and we're starting to see that here. And with this episode, we started to notice that, hey, Alex isn't as great of a character as we think she is. Well, no, excuse me, isn't a good girl or a good guy in this episode. Something's up with her, and we're starting to see.
She's shady.
We're starting to see that.
I wrote that too. I said she is way shadier than we think.
But I don't think she's shady for no reason, and that's something else I'll get into later on. And we got to see Joan Cusack.
I love her cameo.
I was super happy about that.
She's a hoot.
But overall, this episode, great stuff. And episode 4 of season 2. It's a wild ride, and it's only going to get better. So let's go ahead and start with the Department of Defense interview. What was your take on that situation? Because I have a take on it, but I'd like to hear yours first, Kelsey.
I'm curious about yours because I know it was like such a big moment, but for me, jumping in right away with that, I kind of was like, oh, okay. Yeah, sure. I thought it was interesting. I don't know. For me, what she was saying, what Temple was saying, didn't really resonate with me as much as like Joan Cusack in the corner being like giving her the wink initially and then kind of jumping in and saving her butt. I was like, ooh, this is all just messy and it's interesting. And I'm like, how is she going to play now into this? So I guess, if I had to sum it up in one word, my overall thought was like, ew, this is messy. What's happening?
Yes, very messy. And from the beginning, when we see them walk in and we see everybody, getting into the interview, and then
we see Pam or whatever her name is.
Exactly. You see Pam, but then you see Colonel Bunda like looming in the corner. I'm like, okay, what's happening over there? She's looming in the corner and she winks, like you said, she winks at Audrey, and I'm like, okay. I was thinking, why is this wink happening? But whenever these gentlemen are conducting the meeting or the interview, and then the colonel starts chiming in, I start to figure out what's happening. I'm like, okay, something's going on here as far as the colonel, the Department of the Army or the Department of Defense, and then this company, Geist, because no meeting goes that easy. That was a super easy meeting.
No,
And
and
the one
quick, and yeah.
and the one question that she asked that stuck with me is like when she said, "Did any of these subjects come back and complain?" And
Right.
she was like, "Well,
Right.
technically, no." That's all we need to hear. Whenever
Mhm.
that was said, I'm like, okay, something is
Mhm.
up. And
Mhm.
not to sound like a conspiracy theorist here, but when any member of the government has you in for an interview and they say that's all we need to hear and move on,
They're
there's
done.
something else
Yep.
normally coming behind that.
Yep.
And so after that, let's go into what happened after the interview, because what happened after the interview is important as well. The next thing that we see after that is a dinner between Audrey and Alex. What did you think about that whole dinner? Because there was a lot that happened in that dinner. There's a lot of setup and just a lot of overall tea. What are your thoughts on this?
Overall tea, that is
Yeah,
the perfect way to put it. Well, initially I was like, Kelsey, you made a stupid prediction about them not being an actual official thing, because they're definitely, if not married, as close to it as they could be, very much in a relationship. The baby bomb, that was, I
yeah,
was like, oh, whoa, that was wild. So the baby bomb was huge. Um, Alex is just almost the like master, she, I mean, not almost, she is the master manipulator. You know,
yeah,
she's telling Temple these things and she's like, no, this is what you did. You weren't Bobby's, or I'm sorry, gosh, I keep saying Bobby, but you weren't just his assistant. You did everything. Like, you know
right.
that, right? You realize that. Talking her into these things and believing these things. And I mean, even if she was doing that, which she was, but ooh, she's just, yeah, master manipulator over there. And then the whole baby bomb, and then actually the champagne part kind of got me too when she was like, "Oh, stop. He likes that." You know, when she calls him over and calls him monsieur, and then it's like, "Give me what,
Garcon.
garçon, garçon, garçon." Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then it's like, "Give me your finest." Like, I whatever you. So she's a smooth talker too.
Yes.
Like, clearly, and we know this from her job, but clearly she knows what she's doing. She knows her way around her verbiage, right? Her vocabulary.
Yes, she is the master of rhetoric and like
Yeah.
and yeah, and it's just that's what it is. Oh, if you look the Greek definition is persuasive talking, and that's
Yeah.
exactly what she was doing. Um, yeah, the baby thing for me, because that's one thing we see in the beginning. We
Mhm.
see Alex looking at random men in a count in like a
Right, right.
and Vietnamese guys at that, and I'm like, okay, what's happening here?
That was
And
weird to me.
yeah, I was wondering what was going on there. And then we have once we get to the dinner, we get how there's a whole baby thing. And
Right,
so this is means artificial insemination and they're trying to
right.
have a child. And yeah, it's just we go from there. And then also like well that's later on about Alex agreeing to carry it, but that's later on. That was a whole nother thing to me.
Yeah, yeah. But
So
it was wild. Yeah, it kinda went from, like, one, I mean, they're completely different directions, right? But still, she's like, "You gotta do this with your job, and we're having the baby." She's the one in charge of this
yes.
relationship, it seems.
For sure. I mean, and in a relationship, you do need somebody who is more of the
Yeah, the
detail
head, yeah.
goal-oriented person,
Mhm.
and then you need the bohemian hippie kind of side.
Yeah,
It's yin and yang,
yeah, yeah.
yin and yang. So let's talk about something else that happened as a result of the DOD interview. Audrey goes back to Leonard and explains what
Right.
happened with the interview, and she explains, okay, it went very well, and we don't think any more problems will arise. But now that we've taken care of this, now I have more ideas. And we saw this before with Audrey trying to introduce ideas in this like boys club thing,
Mhm.
boys club world. And for here, she tries to introduce an idea. And what happens after that, Kelsey? The same thing. She gets shot
Yeah,
down again.
get shut down.
But this time, I think it was for a good cause. And I just want to, before we go, before I get
Yeah.
your view on it, like, yeah, he shuts her down, but ultimately he tells her, I'm not just shutting you down, I'm shutting down the whole program and everything. And which that made me feel a little bit better. This time she was getting shut down for her idea, but it was because the boss is ending the program in general.
Mhm.
Kelsey, what were your
Mhm.
thoughts on that whole meeting after that with her and Leonard?
my big takeaway from that was when he said something. I mean, he kind of like alluded to getting addicted to the roller ball or whatever
Mm,
you're taking, and not realizing what it's doing to you until you stop taking it and start lashing out, right? And
right.
we keep seeing this roller ball. Alex doesn't like it. She's taking it from Temple. Temple keeps using it. I mean, clearly this stuff isn't meant to be ingested, which
Hmm.
Leonard keeps saying. And back to our point in the first episode, he just loves his plants. Like this has become bigger than his plants, and he doesn't like it, so he's shutting it down. But yeah, that was kind of my big takeaway. I was like, ooh, interesting point. That as well as him saying, yeah, great, I fired these two boys. It's not about the two guys I fired. It's about everything, and we're
Hmm.
stopping it. Like, so I like Leonard. I do. I've always been a Leonard fan. I'm a Leonard fan. He's an
Right.
interesting character.
I'm with you, and I'm glad to see Leonard doing something noble. When he sees the
Mhm.
potential of what product he made, he wants to end it and get rid of it, and that's good. That's really
Right.
good. In life, we have a whole bunch of things we should have ended before we got started, and we didn't. And
Yep.
you can look at the
Yep.
nuclear bomb. That's one program should have been ended, but it wasn't, and we wound up using it, and
Yeah.
bad results came as a result of
Right.
it.
Right.
So
It's interesting. Sorry, I'm jumping
no, go
in,
ahead.
but it's interesting that he can almost like foresee that. It's like things have happened in the past before even the homecoming project that
Mhm.
people abused this plant and bad things happen. So I think that's kind of he's just like, look, we need to stop. We need to nip this in the bud. I know what this does. I know, like maybe it happened to him. I don't know, I don't know, but he knows what's up and he's trying to warn everyone and everyone's going to go against him, and he's just there. He's there to try to help.
He is. He is. I'm for it too. But I'm just glad he realized the error of like something that he made. Like, okay, it's doing harm, so
Right.
to get
Right.
rid of it. Um, Before we get to our next point, I just want to stop for a second and thank everybody who watches and or listens to this. You guys, because of you guys joining in on our shows, you make us the ESPN of TV talk, and you continue to do that every time you like, subscribe, and share, and watch and comment on our videos. And if you're in the chat now, shout out to the chat. If you're in there, whoever's in the chat,
I
uh,
got you. Jump on in here.
yes, please remember, don't spectate, participate. This is an open forum for you guys to join and become part of the show. This show's about you in the first place. Thank you so much for tuning in. And now we have to get back to our next point, which is Walter's VA problem slash slash
Gosh.
Leonard's new partner, unexpected partner rather.
Yes.
So Kelsey, why don't you go ahead and take it away for us, since this is your boy?
Oh,
Take it away. Take it away with Walter. With his VA problem?
well, at first I thought Walter was at the DMV. I don't know if I missed the sign, but I was like, is he at the DMV because he has to get a new license because he crashed his truck? I didn't know what was happening. And then we
Right.
quickly realized that he's there getting his medical records, which this lame guy won't give him access to. But he does tell him you were treated at the homecoming facility, which was a private thing through Geist. And he's like, wait, what? And he won't give him any more information than that. And so Walter loses his shit a little bit and grabs the computer. And
Yes.
then we find out later what happens to him, which I was like, what? What? Really? Okay, that was dramatic. That was aggressive. But yeah, they won't give him any of his information. So the guy has to then request these
Hmm.
records for Walter, which I mean, I kind of knew that this was going to play out the way it did. The request is going to go to someone who was in the homecoming facility who worked there, right?
Yes.
And they're going to shut that right down. So poor Walter is just being screwed.
Yes.
And I'm like, ooh, my boy, poor
He
guy.
is. He is being screwed, and I'll tell you, like I feel his pain. I was in the army for 6 years, and the one thing they warned us when we were getting out is like, hey, the VA is going to be slower than the DMV. You have to stay
Why?
on them. It's when you got to think about it. It's the size of our army is over 1 million people. Now you got to count millions of people from the 60s on who have served and got out.
Yeah.
And so those people all need help. And even for me, like calling the VA, whenever I call them on the phone, I always plan it early in the morning because I know I'm going to be there for a little while.
Mhm.
Granted,
Mhm.
times have gotten better, and the VA is working harder to help out veterans. But
Yeah.
yeah, Walter's pain is very accurate. And when he said 8 to 12 weeks, I was like, man, that is so accurate. Everything
You're
with
like, that is
with
so
the VA is
real.
8 to 12 weeks. It's
Dang.
8 to 12 weeks. But
It hurt my heart just like how little they were like just helping him. I mean, the guy
yeah,
wasn't even, it was very, very DMV like. It was like, nope, he wasn't going to give him anything, nothing. And so,
yes.
yeah, Walter got pissed and I would have too.
And the whole fact that, okay, well, now we've sent it to a contract. We've contracted this out to a contractor to,
Right.
the work that you got. So now we are without liability. Yes,
Right.
that is very annoying. And that kind of stuff happens. That kind of stuff
Dang.
happens a lot. Um, but let's go into the next part of this, because what Walter does here, in this scene, trying to get the computer and ultimately, getting arrested, that's going to
Hmm.
pay off later on. But before
Hmm.
we get to that part, let's talk about Leonard's new partner. Now, when I say Leonard's new partner, as we know, 'cause we just watched the episode, the colonel gives Audrey a call and wants a tour of the farm and the facility, and she's already at the front
Right.
desk. And
Yeah.
is
She was
now
like,
a
how
good
about
time.
now?
Yes, that's also accurate too. When the military shows up working, they show up boom on their time, and they're ready to roll.
That's
That's
wild.
one thing about them. When they want something, they are on it and they go. It's tunnel vision. But the fact that she showed up and was ready to go, and this is why she finds this out while she's in the meeting after she with Leonard,
Right.
after just getting turned down. So
Right.
it's like, damn, I got my plans rained on, but
Hmm.
now this new opportunity has presented itself, and the colonel shows up for an interview. What do you think about that whole situation, and also of the conversation that all three of them had when they were giving the not the interview, excuse me, the tour
The
of the
tour.
facilities? Yes.
It was a good, kind of fill in the blank moment for what we saw in episode 2, was it? When he was like, "I don't want anything to do with these partners," and
Hmm.
she's trying to push it on him. I'm just like, "Girl, you're gonna get yourself in trouble, Temple. You're gonna like, stuff is gonna get out of control, and you're not gonna be able to rein it back in." Um, but yeah, the Colonel's great. I mean, she's a hoot. I love her. Uh, it's yeah, I mean, that was truly my only thought, and Leonard clearly got upset about it, didn't want
Yeah.
anything to do with it, left, was like, "She can finish the tour."
Yeah.
So on one part, he was, like, trying to save his butt because he felt like he needed to do this tour, and that was what needed to happen after this whole meeting that morning, but he was like, "Yeah, I don't wanna be a part of this. You know this, Audrey, and now I'm making this known to the colonel, like, this is not what I want to do, so you can finish it." And
Hmm.
you knew Audrey was gonna be like, "Yeah, all right, well, let's figure this out." And I'm like, "Oh, no, this is not gonna go well," but
You know what?
makes a story.
You know what, Kelsey? You remember when she was talking about how much money that they're willing to pay, like they're willing to pay out the ass?
Yeah.
That's one thing I noticed, that like when I was in the army as well, like seeing like uh whenever the Department of like Defense wants to work with a company, let's say something like
Mhm.
Microsoft or something like that, those guys are chopping at the bit, because it's like, man, we know we have the government's checkbook, and the government has an
Yeah.
unlimited checkbook. So if you get an army contract
Yeah.
or an air force contract, you're good for like the next 10 years. And yeah, the only thing
I know,
about
I'm
this.
like, "Government, can we get more of those, like, $1,200 checks? Where's that coming from?"
Well, I'll say one thing too. One more thing before we move on to the next thing. The only thing about working with the government, working with the military, when they contract, get you on a contract to work with them, whatever you make for them, you can only make for them. If you make for somebody
Mm,
else, you are in violation of that. And to give you a proper example of that, when I was in
mm.
the military, a man was arrested for trying to sell the night vision goggles to another country, arrested and in jail for that currently. So yeah, that's one
Wow.
thing about that. And I wonder if they're going to explore this, because now that American military has this, I'm pretty sure other foreign militaries would want it too. I hope that's something that they explore, that they can't sell that to anybody else. But
That's
that's
crazy.
something for for our
So they
prediction.
can't, yeah, they can't distribute or do anything else. It's like solely,
Exactly.
wow.
And this is probably what Leonard is afraid of. Like, hey, I don't want to work with these partners because once they get their hands in
Mm-hmm.
our pockets, we're in debt to them like forever.
Right.
But
Right.
let's see what happens.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I mean, I felt like he didn't want anything to do with it, and I kind of said this before, but because he's scared, like
Mhm.
he's scared of this whole thing just exploding and erupting, and I'm like, let take a hint, girl. Let her scared. Let her knows what's up. But
Exactly. Run.
yeah, yeah, right, right,
Run away, man.
yeah.
Um, so let's move to our last point. And yeah, because we already covered the babe. Yes. So let's talk about this. It was all part of the plan. Now, for me, why I'm saying it was all part of the plan because as we watched in the episode, uh, Audrey reveals to Alex that Walter sent in a request, and now okay, now this issue's a problem to Audrey because she told the colonel that there was no problems, and now there's a soldier saying like, "Hey, I'm having problems from this." And something needs to be done. And from
Hmm.
there, you get Alex and Audrey going into this argument because number one, Alex doesn't want her to report this problem because Alex has already made the plans. They got the baby and all this other stuff. And
Right.
Alex is goal oriented. She wants to do these certain things. And this is one small thing getting in the way of it. Um, what were your thoughts on this initially, with her conceiving this plan and then going forth with it? What were you thinking when all this was happening?
I'm just thinking, oh girl, this is so messy. But it's also wild, like how invested Alex is in Temple, and I guess their relationship, is
Yeah.
what it just kind of pans out to be. That I mean, she's gonna go as far as going and talking to this guy, this soldier, for her to cover up for her.
Hmm.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Like, that was my reaction. I was like, "Wait, what? You're gonna go shut Walter up
Yep.
for her because you want, like, everything in your future to just be sunshine and rainbows," which it's like, well, if you're gonna go do that, it's clearly not gonna be sunshine and rainbows. But yeah, that was wild. That was my thought. I was just like, "What is happening here?"
Yeah, and at least they give her some kind of, she's not just a villain for, well, I don't want to call her a villain yet,
Right,
because
right, I
in
agree.
her mind, she thinks she's doing the right thing because she's her and Audrey have worked hard to get, certain things, and
Mhm.
her herself, she's worked to get things. And now she has this whole family dynamic that she wants to have. And Walter
And
is
keep,
is the
yeah.
catalyst, yeah, for threatening it, and she wants to extinguish that problem. So I can't even really fault her for that. But at the same
Yeah.
time, this is a guy, like that served, and not on top of serving, he came back and was part of this science experiment. And then also, I wanted to ask you about this because I saw her. Did you see? I know you saw the part with her getting everything together, the money in the envelope,
Right,
the credit
right.
card, and then she takes the tube of the medicine from her. What
She
are your thoughts on
photoshops
that?
her face onto that thing, fakes the whole military thing,
Yeah, man.
puts the tattoo on. I was like, "Man, boy," I think that's probably when I wrote, "God, we were comically wrong." We're all
Yeah,
like, "Yeah,
really.
she's fit." Yeah, that was wild. And then takes the tube from Temple. I don't know. I mean, I'm getting into prediction territory here, but I feel like, I mean, obviously that tube is gonna be the same tube that I think ends up getting shoved down her throat. I don't think she voluntarily takes that.
That's okay. Yes, that is in the prediction world. But let's. I want to ask you something else though, because n- remember when we saw her lying to the girl in the beginning, like, "Oh, it happened to me. I went to India and found myself." She's using
Right.
the same strategies, the lying
Yes.
to make herself appear as one of as the same as the person she's trying to convince to
Yeah.
get some kind of empathy, to foster empathy and sympathy rather for the situation.
Nasty.
I think it's very nasty.
Yeah.
But w-
Also, where'd she get that much money? Where'd the money? I was like,
yes,
that was a lot of money. Where'd you just
yes.
pull that out of?
Where did you pull that money from?
Cash. Like,
Who has that money
weird.
like that?
And I thought it was weird when she was going through the files and then she found that one file that was like, okay, military vet, whatever. I'm like, dang girl, like how often do you do this? Do you have like a zillion aliases? Like what's going on here?
Well, remember in earlier scenes that's one shot I wanted to talk to you about anyway. Now that you said this, it makes me think. There's one shot where we go all around the house and not around the house, around her room, and you get to see her whole workstation with all the
Right.
IDs. You remember the IDs that are like
Right.
has different
Yeah.
badges?
Yeah.
So you kind of get that she's already skilled at forging IDs and stuff like that.
And is a con artist.
Yeah, and as a kind of a crisis manager. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, just a con artist on payroll, really.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, you get to see the fact that she is this type of person, and it's really scummy for me.
Hey, same. Same.
But
And
there's
kind of it did bothersome because I mean I did not peg that. You have so much empathy for her in the first couple episodes, and now you're like, "Ugh, what the heck?"
yeah, and then it gets worse. It gets worse with her
Yeah.
with her whole scumminess because
Yeah.
she's going down to the jail to bail this dude out from the jail. So if I was in jail and someone came and bailed me out and they were telling
Ugh.
me, okay, you're in jail because you did this at the VA place trying to get help. I'm a soldier as well. I have the airborne tattoo. I went through the same thing you
So
went
messed
through.
up.
Let me help you. That's really messed up because it's like you're really preying on this guy when he's having the worst time of his life at this moment.
I'm just
So
like, this poor guy has been through it enough going
yeah,
through that whole homecoming facility. Yeah, man, it sucked. I was like, come on.
yeah, that's that's ridiculous. I think I had one more. Hold on, I think I had one more thing I wanted to talk about before in that scene.
I mean, that scene to me, I was like, it just makes you want Walter to win in the end. It's like they have to paint him in a better light at the end of like he just has to come out on top because oh yeah,
Yes,
hurts your heart.
I want to. Before we go to the next thing, I do want to talk about this whole tube thing with her taking the tube
Yeah,
because
yeah.
that's one of those moments where I was like, okay, is this cliche or is it one of these subtle plants that is going to be paid off? Because it's like, give me that. You don't need that, and you take it with
Mm,
you. She could have thrown it somewhere. She could have did all these things with it,
right,
but she chose to
right.
keep it.
Thrown it away.
Yeah. What I want to
Yeah.
ask you, Kelsey, is do you think that was a part of her plan? This whole the whole medicine thing?
Oof. I didn't until you said that. Now I kind of do.
Okay. Because I kind of
Because
felt
she
like it was.
knows. Yeah, I mean, she knows that this guy, this man, what made him forget previously was eating this stuff, was ingesting this stuff. So I think that it was kind of like her backup plan. If everything goes south, then I'll just give him this and he'll forget everything.
Yeah. And see, that's exactly like what I was thinking. I'm like, is this slipping in the drink or something like that? Or
Right. Right.
my thing is like that's not helping that dude at all. You want to fix your problem of this guy possibly tearing down the whole operation because you feel that your livelihood and your family is at stake even though you don't
Mhm.
have the family yet. You're prepping to get the family. um I don't know, it just feels like you want to give him that. For me, it's like, okay, well, how do we fix this problem? He's starting to
Right.
remember the things that he forgot. Let's make him forget again.
Right.
And it's just
Let's
like,
just cover it, uncover it, and cover it, and go. Yeah.
yeah,
Not gonna not gonna work.
and like we saw in previous episodes, especially in season one, remember there was a whole conversation like, okay, with the counselor and Colin, like, okay, wait a minute, you ate some of the stuff that he had and you forced him to take another meal, that's going to incapacitate him. And I think
Right.
that's why we saw Alex in the boat incapacitated in the middle of everything. So maybe
Ah, yeah.
maybe that's the
Yeah.
plan from the payoff from that.
Yeah.
So let's before we get to our predictions, let's go ahead and hit our special segment.
Yes, our bring it home homecoming moment. Rob, what was your favorite moment scene in this episode?
My bring it home moment is when we have the shot of Alex in the hotel room in the window, in the same hotel that everything was planned. Because for me, I'm like, okay, it definitely brought it home. Sorry to it brought it home
I
for me
love it.
because like previously we see this hotel and we think that somebody else is in it, and then like all this stuff happened because we thought they were breaking into a hotel room and all the stuff with the money, and now we know, okay, this a-hole is the one who put it there.
Uh-huh.
She's the one who set
Mhm.
up everything, and we see her in the window and we know, okay, where we were before, and we know how we got there. That was my take,
Ooh,
bring it home moment. What
I
about you,
love it.
Kelsey?
I'm pretty close to yours. Mine was like right before that. It's when she's checking into Skins and you get a little glimpse of the Skins, whatever it was, poster, little thing, brochure, and you're like, ooh, this girl, yeah, brings it all back around. So that was my moment. And then yeah, I liked yours too. That end was good, but I loved that. They're so good in this show about dropping in the little things. And sometimes I even have to pause and I'm like, oh, yep, there's that right there. So I loved that. I liked getting the little glimpse and bringing it back home.
Yes. And one more thing before we head to our predictions, I wanted to talk to you real quick about the endings of each episode.
Mhm.
So for me, I never know when this show is going to end. You know, I'm
Same,
watching it, and then next, it's like done. You see the
same.
director's name. I'm like, wait a minute, they're gonna end it like this? Really? They do
Mhm.
it every episode. Every episode they have a just like a it's ending, and it's like, wait a minute, we were just writing. Now it's over. What do you think about these endings? Do they like throw you off a little bit, or do they pull
Oh,
you out of the show, or what?
absolutely. Absolutely. But then it's also interesting because it's like they end, you see the names or the credits start rolling, but then it's also like it keeps continuing. I mean,
Yes,
if you especially in this last episode, I kept watching to
me
see, okay,
too.
who's gonna come out, and you see a couple people walk down the hall, you see the police officer open the door, but nothing really ever like nothing big happens. But it's so interesting how they do that. They kind of just keep you in, keep you in, keep you in, and then you want to watch the next one.
Yeah, it reminds me of a freaking Marvel movie. Like at the end of a
Yeah,
Marvel movie, you're sitting there
yeah,
waiting, like, okay, is something gonna happen at the end of the credits? And me, I waited till the end, like two
yeah.
episodes. I was like, okay, even when the screen went black, I'm like, okay, well, maybe something else is gonna pop up.
It's gonna
And then they
pop
go
up.
into the
Yeah,
next episode. I'm
yeah.
like, oh, so I waited for nothing. Like I watched all these credits for nothing.
It's like
But
when you're in the theater with someone and they're like, "Okay, the credits are going," and you're like, "No, no, no, no. Yeah, this is Marvel. Something always happens after the credits."
yes, but I love the way they ended though, because you never know, really, unless you're looking at the time frame.
Yep.
And you're not gonna know because you're like engaged and then like
Mhm.
directed by like what?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, let's go ahead and get into our predictions. What do you have for the next upcoming episodes?
So I think that she
And
ends up
now,
taking
your
the vial.
AfterBuzz
I think it's
TV
forced.
predictions.
Um, I'm torn. I don't know if it's forced by Walter though, because I'm trying to remember back to the guy we see on the shore. It doesn't look like Walter at all. So I'm
Mm,
still trying to figure out who the heck that guy is.
yeah,
Ew, that but I do think that she meets Walter, he's not having it. He's like, "What the hell?" Um, they go get drinks. I think it is the two of them. They go get drinks, and then they get to an altercation because she won't answer his questions. And maybe he sees, maybe she tries to slip it to him, and he sees and ends up, like, shoving it down her throat, drops her off there. Ooh, that's what I think. Oh god, I don't know. I really do still think that Walter's mom is gonna have to come into this at some point.
mm,
I think she played such a big part in last season and plays a big role in what's happening to him now. So I think
hmm,
she's gonna have to come in. Yeah, I think stuff's gonna really hit the fan with Temple and Leonard and the Colonel.
mm. Okay. Well, for my predictions, I predict that Leonard is going to try to burn down the damn field before they come back to harvest the crops. I have a feeling
Wow.
because he's already planning to destroy it. So I could totally see him burning it down before anybody else to
It's a
come
great
back to
prediction.
get it. I really think that I can see that now. I can see him burning it down
Yeah.
because one of the first images we see is of him this season is him, looking at his crop,
Yep.
inspecting
Yep.
it,
Yep.
cultivating it. But I think he had that aha moment where it's like, hey, what I'm making is bad, and I really think I should destroy this before this gets into the wrong
Destroy
hands.
it or like sell it to, I mean, there has to be
Somebody.
something with that Skype, that
Yeah.
yeah, I like that.
And my next prediction I predict that there is a anti-memory drug. There's like a memory drug to make you lose your memory, and there's like
Mm.
a reversal drug for that. Because
Wow.
you got to think about it. When they were doing the clinical trials of this, most likely they have to have the opposite. Like, okay, if this dude loses his memory, we need to have something to make him get his memory back. And I think there's a drug for that.
I like that.
Don't quote me. Well, no, you can quote me on it. I've been wrong
I'm
before.
like,
I don't mind being wrong. Yeah. But I really think there's a drug that they have
interesting.
created at Geist to give your memories back, just in case something, you delete too much of your memory. And I think we may
But
be able to see that because of what happened with Alex. When Alex meets Audrey for the first time at the company function with all the balloons, and
yeah, yeah.
maybe that's where she was taking her, like, okay, you lost your memory. Let's go get you your memory back.
Do you think that Colin and that whole crew developed that without Leonard knowing? Because I feel like Leonard didn't really know about the stuff that was making them seriously lose their memory.
No, I think so. Here's my thing. I'm split. Either Leonard knew something about this and he created some kind of drug, or
Mm,
Audrey, being denied all these times of her ideas, had an idea and didn't say anything to anybody, and
and
probably
went with
most
it.
likely tested it on her own.
Whoa.
So
Do you
who
think
knows?
that Alex voluntarily took that? How do you think that? Do you think she took it? Period.
I think she took it, but
Voluntarily.
I don't know if it was voluntarily or involuntarily.
Mm,
But something tells me, because remember in the hospital scene they were talking about the tracks on the arm, looking at
the
the veins.
veins. I know.
Maybe she took it intravenously. So who knows? Who knows?
You don't know with this show. Like I'm always
You
like,
never know what to
I don't
expect.
know. I
You never know
know.
what to expect with this.
You guys in the chat, the five of
Yes,
you in the chat, jump in, tell me your predictions.
yes,
We
please.
want to hear them.
So we've pretty much reached all of our time for this episode.
We
I want to
have.
thank the chat. I want to thank the viewers and listeners. Thank you guys for coming back to us again, and thank you for showing up if it's your first time at Fight Club. We appreciate everybody.
Woo,
Um, I had a blast discussing the show with you, Kelsey.
me as
Kelsey,
well.
thank you. Where can everyone find you at?
Everyone can find me all over social media, Instagram and Twitter at Kels. That's KELS, and then Meyer, MEYER, and the number 2.
Yes, and you guys can find me on Instagram. That's at Rob Stilo. That's ROBSTEELO. Please invade the DMs with any questions, comments, concerns, or tea or predictions, and hopefully we can get to these on the show. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will buzz all of you later.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.